All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm your host for today's broadcast, Insane Leader 13, as we are preparing to get underway for Stint 2 of 12 here for TORA's 24 hours of Nurburgring. Going to be looking for it to about another 100 minutes of racing here, roughly. Real quick, let's go ahead and look over the drivers that we have in this event. We may still be missing a few drivers, but we'll try to keep you up to date if we end up missing someone. Blocktoberfest is going to be taking over the KTM number 23. FTC Haseo is going to be taking over this very nicely painted, autumn-styled BMW GT3. Scored Buffalo is going to be taking over the E-Racing United. Keep an eye on Scored Buffalo. Buffalo is normally incredibly good running BMW cars, and it looks like he may have just lagged out as I was saying that. Hopefully, no, he didn't lag out, but I think someone else jumped in. I apologize. EXR Garmite is going to be trying to add to the massive lead that his team pulled out in Stint 1. VNX Comey is going to be taking over in one of the Mustangs, trying to recover some ground after their teammate disconnected early in Stint 1. AFMG Saki is going to be jumping to one of the other Ford Mustangs. HYR Vasco is going to be taking over that number 30 machine that stole a third-place result near the very end of the prior stint. Then you have NWR Customs, who is going to be returning in the lone Aston Martin Vantage entry in the entire event. ZR Berserk, whose teammate put this Mercedes up in a relatively solid result. They are going to be running here, and Berserk will be taking over. Again, the ZR team does seem to have some speed here at Nurburgring Nordschleife. Les Sunday is going to be... He's in the wrong BMW right now. I'm hoping they get that fixed. There's no way we have two completely different types of BMWs running here, so we'll come back to that. Mojave is going to go back-to-back stints in that orange Dodge Viper. Calco is going to be taking over this Dodge Viper, the one that came home in what I believe was second overall. HYR Henrique is going to be taking over the number 29 HYR Viper. VER Razor is going to be jumping into the VER Dodge Viper. Keep an eye on this. This will be another entry to really keep an eye on today. Ignore me. I am just a broadcaster. Dead Call will be taking over one of the BMW M4s in the road car category. DTA Levine is also going to be running one of the other BMWs in the road category. LMP Aramis is back in the LMP. Toyota Supra EMC Corvette is in that 199 Supra. CBL Ferrari is going to be the number 98 Supra. Anzio will be in the 211 Supra. And then you have Prod Andy 8AS, who is apparently in the Cadillac. That might be wrong. We might see that get adjusted in a bit here. Also, real quickly, I don't know what Les Sunday's problem is, because it does not look like they are in the proper car right now, as we're currently waiting for everyone else to get into the lobby and get everything ordered up. Stint 1 was at the front relatively easy. The leader in both categories opened up a big lead, although to be fair, in the road going category, the lead gradually did shrink down near the end, but still very easy at the front. The fight was basically for second and then third and fourth on back in the GT category. Traffic takes over an hour for the leaders to actually catch. So with that in mind, traffic really doesn't have a gigantic impact simply because the gaps between most of the fields open up, unless you end up with drivers who are very, very close in performance and mistake making. Generally speaking, I don't imagine the traffic is going to have too much of an impact in the event today. So with that in mind, everyone is anticipating to run about 12 full laps over the, well, in the top category, you're anticipated to run just about 12 full laps over the full course of a run here. So with 3 mandatory stops, you can just pit on lap 3 at the end of your 3rd lap, at the end of your 6th lap, and the end of your 9th lap, and you should be good to go after that. Beyond that, though, we did see the Dodge Viper show some promise, but not really a lot of delivery. We did see that it was a BMW M4 that won, but also just a lot of variety. 4 different manufacturers in the top 4 positions for the top class. In the bottom class, not the same though. You had one BMW at the front there in the bottom category. Sorry, not BMW, it was the Elantra. It was Prod's Elantra. One Elantra at the top, and then followed by 4 Supras, and then the BMWs were, for the bottom category, were way off pace. So yeah, top category seems to be very, very close together. The bottom category, at least based off of Stint 1, not very close at all right now. Things can change, though. We could end up seeing circumstances shift here as we come into Stint number 2. So not everyone is readied up yet here. I'm a little bit paranoid that they're going to change something or alter something and I'll get unready. That did cause a little bit of an issue with our tickers before, so I'm hoping that I don't get caught off guard by that. All right, I think everyone is readied up now, so we should be able to get underway. I'm going to go ahead and knock out a Twitch-mandated ad break, so hopefully we can get way ahead of ads and have a nice, long, ad-free stint of broadcasting early on the green flag here. We'll be back momentarily at Nurburgring Nordschleife. Hopefully when we come back, they'll be loading onto the circuit. All right, here we go. Now we're talking. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we want to welcome you back here to Nurburgring Nordschleife as we are preparing to get underway here for Stint 2 as they are doing the last moment adjustments to the starting grid, so that way when they load on, they don't have any issues, not have to manually reorder. Assuming that we don't have any delays or any mandatory lobby resets, we should be able to cover at least the first 3 laps without issue here. So down to the very first round of pit stops without too much problem we are anticipating. I believe that this stint, the starting grid is going to be the exact same as the starting grid was in stint number 1 here. And for those of you asking, why is Forza optimizing shaders? That's just an Xbox thing. I have that issue with other games that aren't Forza, so... All right, here we are, loading onto the circuit. All right. So, as I said, EXR Garmite is your pole sitter, followed by Calco and HYR Henrique. Then it will be VNX Comey, HYR Vasco, VER Razor, NWR Customs, ZR Berserk, Isa Bay, AFMG Saki, Emo, Have, Scored Buffalo, FTC Haseo, and Blocktoberfest and Les Sunday. Then in the bottom category, you will have Prod, Andy, 8AS, CVL, Ferrari, LMP Aramis, EMC Corvette, DTA Lavine, Anzio, and Dead Call. And that will be your grid as we come to the green flag here. So 7 cars in the bottom category. This time I'm actually going to make an effort to focus on the bottom category at the start instead of the top as they come to the green flag. Already our GTs are accelerating away, and we are off here at Nurburgring Nordschleife. Prod Andy, or as we're just going to try and call him Andy, holding the lead in the Hyundai Elantra that led the entirety of Stint 1. Can he replicate it? Can he add to his team's advantage overall early on here at Nurburgring Nordschleife? It looks like he's got fantastic ability to put power down out of the corner, and they are side by side, Toyota on Toyota on Toyota action here in second position. It looks like LMP Aramis is going to clear CBL Ferrari without too much issue, and Aramis is now going to have to set his focus forward to try and run down the Elantra. But meanwhile, in the top category, it is EXR Garmite who has already pulled open a gap as the 2 Dodge Vipers are immediately going at it. We saw this happen last stint. It's happening again. The leader just zooms off into the distance as everyone's second on back spend too much time jockeying with each other for position. Qualifying well is just so important because these drivers do not stop fighting, it seems, more often than not. Bit of a twitch, bit of a slide there by Calco. That brings VNX Comey right behind him. Calco misses the corner. It's going to give the inside line to Comey. Calco neck and neck going into the following corner. Calco leaves the inside line open again, but should have the power to put it down and keep the Dodge in third position just for a moment as HY Henrique now starts to scoot away a bit. Now we see Comey trying to go the long way around. Comey into the outside wall. Comey lawn against the outside wall, and he's going to drop well down the order, just about to last position. Hits the curb, trying to merge back onto the circuit. Looks like he'll stabilize into the 10th spot just for the moment. So this is now, that is Vasco in the HYR machine that is now up there behind Calco. I'll be putting the pressure on Calco going forward here. Already you can see Scored Buffalo and VER Razor. These are the 2 drivers I said to keep an eye on. Oh, that was a humongous hit for Razor. Gigantic hit. He's not the only one. There's multiple other cars involved. I believe Haseo may have been involved as well. Multiple drivers involved in a gigantic accident at the top of the hill. Oh, and now we're all backing out. Well, so much for that. So now we are going to go way behind schedule, as we're going to have to do this all over again after a gigantic crash at the top of the hill caused by VER Razor in the Dodge Viper. Well, I did say keep an eye on that entry, but I did not mean keep an eye on that entry in the sense that I was going to have an accident. I thought he was going to rush to the front early on, but no, that was a big instant there early on. And the track narrows up very quickly there, and that Dodge was basically launched off the tire barrier right into the field. So a multi-car accident early on, and it looks like that is going to warrant a lobby reset here at Nurburgring Nordschleife. Okay, so now we're just in a holding pattern as we get everyone ready, back up, load back into the lobby, and they're going to try and do this all over again here. We're going to knock out Twitch mandated ad break, and hopefully when we come back, they'll be loading onto the circuit. The one advantage of this is that knocking out ads early means that we'll have a lot longer period of green flag racing without ads during the actual race itself. So we'll be back here momentarily at Nurburgring Nordschleife for attempt 2 to get underway here. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here to Nurburgring Nordschleife as we are in a holding pattern, waiting to get underway for our second attempt here at Stint 2. Our first attempt, we didn't have any lag outs, but we had a gigantic accident going over the hill, the first really big hill in the Nordschleife section, and it involved just about a third of the top category. So that was enough to warrant a complete lobby restart. So we are resetting the lobby, re-racking and restacking the event now, as they're getting the field properly reordered up. All right, here we go. Time to do this again. Hopefully this time works a little bit better. I'm actually going to go ahead and stick with the top category this time, in the hopes that by actually focusing on the top category, maybe things will change and we don't have an accident. Obviously, what I'm doing is not actually having an impact on the racing, but drivers are superstitious people, and while I don't believe in a lot of superstitions, I will soothe the nerves of the people who are watching and the people who are actually racing. So, the XR Garmite once again is going to be leading the field, but the fight seems to constantly be for second on back, while your pole sitters just kind of vanish off into the distance. So it looks like it will be Calco versus HYR Henrique here for a second. That's what it was at the start of Stint 1. That was what it was in the first attempt of Stint 2. Stint 2, attempt 2, we are green flag once again at Nurburgring Nordschleife. This time it looks like Calco actually got a little bit better of a launch, opening up the gap between himself and Henrique early on this time. Henrique already finds himself under pressure from VNX Comey. Comey, that car is trying to regain ground after lagging out early on in the first stint. Vasco and Razor having a bit of a fight here. Mind you, Razor was the one who had that big off, which caused that large multi-car accident in Stint 1. He's got to be on his best behavior now here in Stint 2. Trying to go around the outside, but now he's got that Aston Martin of NWR Customs to his inside. Razor trying to wrap it around the long way around. Cannot make it work there. In fact, he actually ends up losing the ground to the Aston, and now that is ZR Berserk. Berserk put that car into a top 4 finishing position last stint. The Aston and the Mustang ahead are still side by side, but it looks like it's going to be Customs who can go a little bit deeper, a little bit more confidently into the braking zone, slides wide in the process, but I think he'll be able to hold station. That is Razor just behind, trying to make something of it. Second, third, fourth, all nose to tail, and then you have this group 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th all on top of them. each other here. Scored Buffalo not nearly as high up the road as he was this time last circuit by. And unsurprisingly, Andy is still leading in the bottom category without issue. Bit of a slide here, but it looks like now the entire group is all coming together just a bit. Customs gets touched a little bit there by Bosco, gets forced offline, but he moves back onto the racing line just before the braking zone. So good job there. Right on board with Scored Buffalo as he looks at that giant train of cars up ahead. This was the problem corner where we had the big accident last time, but I think they'll be able to keep it clean this time. No, they're not! That's a bigger accident! And that is a bigger accident this time! We've had a bigger accident coming up to the top of the hill now! And now Scored Buffalo cycles up into third. Customs involved. Isa Bay is involved. That's a bigger accident at the top of the hill now. And Blocktoberfest backs out. Is this going to be a third lobby reset? It is. So 2 gigantic accidents in the same corner in the first 2 attempts. The exact same thing happens with the same bloody drivers. So it seems like this group is having a lot harder time actually keeping it on the racetrack here. By the time we actually get underway, we are going to be about 45 minutes behind schedule, ladies and gentlemen. It's honestly gotten wild how this has turned out. Well, if we're going to be in this prolonged holding period again as we try again, I'm going to knock out another Twitch-mandated ad break so we can have a nice long stint of coverage when we actually get into this. I have to wonder, how many times is TORA going to go ahead and reset? How many times will they just keep having accidents before they finally say, screw it, we have to go anyway because we're too far behind? But we'll be back momentarily here at Nurburgring Nordschleife. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back as we're about to get underway for our third attempt. This should be our final attempt here at getting underway at Nurburgring Nordschleife, as we have had 2 almost exactly similar gigantic accidents over the hill in the Nurburgring Nordschleife at Nordschleife section, the first giant hill, almost the exact same accident twice over here. Hopefully this time we can avoid the big accident, and even if it does happen, we can avoid the mandatory lobby reset afterwards. All right, here we are, loading onto the circuit once more. Attempt number 3, hopefully the final attempt. For Garmite and Calco and Henrique, the three of them must be feeling like, look, we've done everything perfectly each time. Can we just please get underway? We are not doing anything wrong. Garmite especially has been able to pull out some outstanding leads in the first 2 attempts here. But we are going to do like we did last time. We're going to focus on Calco and Henrique as they come to the green flag. See if these two will fight with each other, or if maybe Calco gets a really good shot this time, a good start this time, and is able to jump forward. It seems like there's some backing up going on farther back in the grid. It looks like Razor may have gotten a bit sandwiched there between Vasco and Customs. But as they go under the bridge, we are going to go green flag once again for what should be 100 minutes of running here at Nurburgring Nordschleife. This time it looks like Henrique is going to lose a bit of ground to Calco. Now is Calco, not as much as he did last time, but not as good as attempt number 1 here. So the gaps between the top 3 all stay relatively minor right now. Comey and Vasco are in position farther back. Razor's already slipped back to the 8th position. So immediately Razor dropping down the order. He's going to fight back against Isabe, trying to wrap around the outside as they come uphill to the Schumer S. And yes, that VER number 21 Dodge Viper will get at least 1 position back. So Razor holds on to 8th position. ZR Berserk has already moved up into 7th. NWR Customs and the Aston Martin is up to 6th. Then you have HYR Vasco in the Ford Mustang. Then it is VNX Chromie in another Ford Mustang, followed by the 2 Dodge Vipers of Henrique and this one here, Calco. And Garmite is slowly starting to peel away just a little bit from the rest of the field as Calco can see Henrique closing up behind him bit by bit. Field seems to be a little bit more relaxed and reserved this time. Not as much incredible side-by-side action as they get into the Nordschleife proper compared to the prior circuit around here. As I say that, though, Comey has a bit of a twitch just in front of Vasco, keeping Vasco backed up, so that might help. As again, Comey hits the dirt, really backing himself, and Vasco up. Customs is right there as well. Big twitch, big slide by Comey. He's off the ideal line, and Vasco will go through. What about Customs? Can Customs make it stick? Customs cannot make it stick. Not this time. Not here. Isabe and Berserk are having a bit of a fight at it farther back. There's Razor, there's Saki and Scored Buffalo, all right in the middle of it. We're right on board with Scored Buffalo as the field's running uphill. This has been the calamity corner of the last 2 attempts. Can they make it clear through here this time? Buffalo backs out, doesn't want to be involved in an incident, doesn't want to be a cause of an incident. It looks like they're all going to get through relatively cleanly this time. Sport Buffalo has a run on AFMD Saki, tries to go the long way around, the outside. Can he make it stick in this BMW? Now Mustang hits the dirt there. They're still side by side. They jump over the second big hill, and now they fire off into the braking zone. Buffalo goes really deep and around the outside, makes it stick, and now he has someone already backing out. Someone had a big twitch there, and Buffalo's around. Buffalo's around. Are we having another restart again? We are having another restart again. This time we didn't even get to see why we're having a restart. But we are having another restart all over again, it seems. We got about a third of a mile farther through the lap this time. But we're going to have to do this all over again, ladies and gentlemen. All right, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to do what is now our 4th attempt. I thought it was only going to be 3 attempts, but apparently we are getting a 4th attempt at this. We do apologize for the consistent issues, although I guess for those of you who are Crash fans, you're getting plenty of crashes at least, as we're preparing to get underway here again at Nurburgring Nordschleife. The only good news is we have knocked out so many ad breaks that I will be able to go over half of the stint without needing to break away, at least. I'm really trying to find the good in this, but it's hard, and a lot of people are getting very, very frustrated and aggravated with how things have been going and turning out here. And it keeps being the same cluster of cars and about the midfield that seem to be causing these issues. Again, I have to wonder if we have another large field-destroying crash. Are they going to reset again? All right. Field begins to roll once again now. So this time, considering that he has been at the center of every event thus far, I mean, I have to agree with Dr. Hack's opinion there. Just don't restart for crashes at all, and people would be more careful. But regardless, we're going to actually go ahead and just focus on VER Razor, since he has been in the epicenter for all 3 instances thus far. As they roll down under the bridge, and we are underway here once more. Hopefully this time we can actually get some decent running in this time. And if we do have a big accident, well, hopefully we get a really good view of it, but I feel that everyone here agrees that we would ideally like to not have a ridiculous accident. Normally they say 3rd time's the charm, and the 3rd attempt we did get a little bit farther down, but only about 1/5 of a mile farther down the road before it happened again anyway, so I'm not saying that Razor here has been the cause of each one, although he definitely caused the first one, but he's been right in the epicenter of every single incident thus far. That is why we are choosing to follow him early on here this time. Bit of a touch there from behind by that Aston Martin of NWR Customs, the lone Aston Martin in the field. No real changes at the head of the grid. It is still Garmite, Calco, Henrique, Comey, and Vasco, nose to tail just ahead in the Mustangs. Razor's able to close the gap down in the corners just a bit here. Just like last time, nothing big, nothing crazy, no big side-by-side movements as they go into Nordschleife proper now. And now they begin to hurl it downhill here. Through here, we typically see one guy or 2 guys get a little bit sideways, lose some ground here. This time it looks like Razor's a little bit wide, but Customs is not able to capitalize. Big slide from the Mustangs just ahead there. Customs all over the rear of this Viper. And now they begin uphill. This has been the calamity corner. Can they keep it clear through here this time? Looks like we're having a little bit better run of it this time. And now we come to the next corner that has been the big calamity section here. AFMG Saki has lost some ground. Comey and Vasco trying to go side by side, but Vasco backs out of it. He's not willing to commit. They just want to get some distance in this time. They actually want to get some running in. So no big side-by-side moves this time. And it looks like the majority of the field has cleared. So it looks like we're actually going to get some proper racing this time, assuming we don't have a big crash coming uphill out of the valley. And Calco and Henrique very nearly went side-by-side there. It looks like Henrique has gone side-by-side and made the move for position. So fantastic job there. This is really the last section of the circuit where I imagine we could have a big incident. Customs wide, but he'll use this to try and parlay ahead of Razor. Look at this group of cars. They're like a snake all nose to tail near perfectly through there. This middle of the field is still all tucked on top of each other like something else. I'm not going to say they stopped dying yet. We're not far enough into the run to say. Big slide by Customs. It brings Razor up. Zara Berserk's there. Watching this. Scored Buffalo and Saki both really backed out this time by. They are nowhere near the front, but it looks like this time they've kept it a little bit tighter as they go through the funnel section here. Finally, everything is starting to spread out just a little. I like to say everything's starting to spread out, but that has not been the case. Customs now working on Vasco, but he puts the tire in the grab, gets himself sideways, and is now still stuck behind that Mustang. So the top three in relatively good position, but everyone else is really, really struggling still. Somehow, we've seen a lot of bumpers being put to cars, but we have not had an incident this time. Hopefully it stays that way. Andy has maintained his lead in the Hyundai Elantra in the bottom class, but the GT is where the action and the chaos has been here. We're about halfway through the lap. It looks like they may have finally got their stuff together. And HYR Vasco has had a lag out before an entire lap is finished, it appears. Oh, and that's a car into the wall there. That's the Aston. That's Vasco. And that's going to be a multi-car accident. We've had another one. Another multi-car accident. Isa Bay's involved. Again, another multi-car accident. Isa Bay's car is destroyed. And this one looks like it was caused by Vasco having a disconnect. We think it was Vasco. Maybe it wasn't Vasco. But multiple cars involved in this one. FTC Haseo is limping around with a completely destroyed car as well. NWR Customs car is destroyed. So it wasn't Vasco who lagged out, it was Customs. So Customs is the one who's had an accident. And at least 3 other cars heavily, heavily damaged. And this one happened just as Vasco lagged out. So this may not have been a driver issue. This may have been an issue where there was a bit of a stutter due to the lag. And the stuttering may have caused someone to high center it over a curb. And everything has been completely ruined again. Isa Bay is able to limp the car forward. Aramis is going to get by. We see Haso limping a car as well. So it looks like that's it. So 3 cars completely destroyed, completely ruined. We got farther than we did the first 3 times, but still a gigantic accident seemed like it was fated to happen in this event. Your leader is EXR Garmite, followed by HYR Henrique. We're going to try and reach out to Customs and Vasco and see what they have to say about this. Oh, wow, Customs jumped in immediately. Customs, can you hear me? Can you include your audio in the Xbox part?
Yeah, now it's okay.
All right. 4 different attempts, Customs. 4 attempts.
All right, so
and in the end,
I can tell you right now, the
out.
3 attempts that happened was the 3 of them were the exact same scenario, but with different packs. Like in the first stint, it was the back markers of GT who completely went like 4 wide in Flugplatz. The second time, it was the front runners in front of me where I crashed immediately in the car that went in the wall. And the third one was the back markers when they got distracted, the slower cars got distracted from the GTs and someone went into the wall. I don't care. The last attempt was me again getting obliterated by HYR Vasco, which had an internet problem, and I just got completely fucked off.
From our perspective, it looked like HYR Vasco disconnected, and that was the cause. So
yeah,
he disconnected,
he blew into me, and I went into the wall, and I got the full damage.
So, incredibly frustrating time. We know that this entry is one of the better ones, had been performing very well based off of the performance in Stint 1.
Yeah.
Will your team continue to run in the later stints?
I think so, yeah. I'll talk with the guys and we'll see.
If you guys do run next stint, who's going to be taking over in Stint 3?
It will be Velocity.
All right, we'll be keeping an eye on that. Frustration, 4 different accidents in a row. Same things, but different drivers, it appears. It's a shame we have to talk to you this early in the event, mate.
Yeah, no problem with it. I got washed. Thank you.
All right, well, with that in mind, that will pretty much put an end to multiple drivers' race. Another driver involved in that was VER Razor, although he is got engine damage, so he was able to limp around the field a little bit quicker here. Les Sunday has jumped into the pits as well, so Les Sunday also had significant damage. So at least 5 cars with completely derailing amounts of damage here. And it looks like Blocktoberfest was probably the first driver who got out of it. So out of a 15-car field, 7 of them, roughly, involved.
Yep.
You couldn't join the interview earlier? Okay, 1 second. Well, I'm sorry about that, and Nims, it happens. But anyways, as we focus here, as we are now finally in racing circumstances anyway, our top 3 is Garmite, Henrique, and Calco. Those 3 positions seem to be relatively steady at the moment. ZR Berserk brought this car home in a top 4 result in Stint 1, his teammate did, and now Berserk is on way to bring home potentially another top result. Scored Buffalo, really, really good at avoiding all this chaos, has avoided all but 1 of those 4 accident attempts. And now he is running up here in the 5th position right now, focused forward on ZR Berserk. So while he didn't qualify or start very high up the grid, Buffalo does have a chance to really try and make things happen. Buffalo has been a legend at being incredibly good in these BMW cars, whether it's the M8, whether it's this GT3 car, the M4, whether it's the older one, the Rahal one from the late 2000s. Buffalo has been incredibly good in BMW GT cars. Look forward to Buffalo to pull himself up to maybe a 4th or a 3rd place finish over the course of this run. A little bit farther down the grid, you look at your bottom category, currently led by Andy, who is currently 11th overall right now, followed by LMP Aramis in 2nd, CBL Ferrari in 3rd, and then you have Dead Call 1337 running just a little bit behind in 4th. This is the highest we have seen the BMW entries in the bottom category run right now, although he is currently under threat from Anzio and another one of the Supra. So this may be, by numbers, a super category, but it has been led by the Hyundai Elantra, and just a little bit behind that is VER Razor, who is rushing his way up the grid. Again, Razor got away with no engine damage, so he didn't lose as much time trying to drag the car around the field here. Isabe has finally made it into pit lane, and they are repairing their car now. HTC Haseo is still limping their own BMW car around. They still haven't even gotten to the top of the straightaway on the backstretch. Not even gotten to the top of the hill on the backstretch. I mean, I do apologize for mistaking that. So, frustrating thing for Razor is that there is a distinct possibility that he may actually have to catch traffic twice today. But field has gone through a very significant amount of separation from about 9th on down, but our top group is still relatively close. Garmite is your leader. Henrique runs in 2nd, is gradually losing touch with Garmite. Calco is keeping Henrique in his sights. ZR Berserk now has scored Buffalo right behind. This will be the fight to really keep an eye on here. Through the funnel section. Man, it's hard to believe that we basically will have gone over an entire hour without completing a full lap with no incidents. So, wow, we will do it, but it's going to be basically an hour from the end of Stint 1 to 2nd lap of Stint 2 to get through a lap with no incidents. Wild how that kind of works out. NWR Customs officially leaves now, and there you go. Scored Buffalo clears Berserk with minimal issue. Next driver on his list will be Calco, who's not that far up the road, and just ahead of Calco is HYR Henrique. So again, scored Buffalo really making things work, something fantastic right now. Berserk is still running right behind Buffalo at the moment, so Buffalo's not vanished off into the distance. Berserk able to use the draft to stay in touch with that BMW through here. You don't want to go side by side through these corners. You saw what happened earlier. The last big accident was in these corners where they were trying to go side by side. But it does look like Buffalo has the thing hooked up, has moved himself up into the 4th position. For a moment, I thought I saw Viper going off there. I was about to lose my mind if the camera swapped and the Viper really had gone off. Scored, closing in now on Calco. He is dragging ZR Berserk with him. So it looks like we may be looking at a scenario similar to last stint, where it's just going to be the fights for 2nd and 3rd will be the big focus throughout most of the time here. Don't worry, Chungus. They had a 4th accident anyway. It's a shame, but it did happen regardless. This one was caused by someone lagging out while they were going side by side, and that caused the other driver to get wrecked because of the lag. It wasn't a driver issue. It was a... I think this stint was cursed to have a giant accident. It reminds me a bit of when we covered Sebring earlier in the year for TORA, where they had a similar giant accident. Granted, a lot later, but they had a similar giant accident coming out of the final corner there. Sometimes fate just demands blood and oil. So Buffalo tucked up behind the Dodge Viper of Calco. Calco struggling, trying to keep this BMW behind. Around the outside, easy overtake by Scored Buffalo. He's now already moved his way up into the 3rd position on the racetrack. Haseo still in pit lane. Am I seeing this right? No, he's out of pit lane, isn't he? Yeah, he has now finally gotten back into the Nordschleife section. Okay. But we continue to focus on Scored Buffalo as he is rapidly rushing his way up through the grid. Oh, big off-track moment there by Buffalo. Got tires completely off the ground there. Keeps it pointing straight, though. He is still going. And he's actually pulled away from ZR Berserk, so Berserk is not close enough to really start putting any pressure on Calco right now. As Buffalo, if he can navigate this corner well, he'll have great straight line speed and might be able to clear Henrique for 2nd by the end of this lap. Now we get into the drafting section. Saw that dodge of Henrique, drop a tire into the dirt, slow his momentum a bit. Here comes Buffalo. He's got to run. Looking to the outside. Trying to use sheer straight line speed. Now he pulls behind the Dodge. Gets a bit of a draft. Uses it to close down. Again, the Dodges don't typically have us top in, so they can ideally brake a little bit later in the straightaway here. But if Buffalo completely clears Henrique, which he did, it may not matter. I don't think Henrique is going to be in a position to try and brake late and get back by the BMW. So after avoiding a gigantic accident, Scored Buffalo has gone from well down the order, real quickly, just to verify. He has gone from 12th to 2nd in 2 laps. Now, of course, the question is going to be, does Scored Buffalo have anything for EXR Garmite? Because Garmite has been in a zone, that lead car, the lead BMW, has been in a zone of its own today. It'll be BMW on BMW action if Buffalo can run down Garmite, but that is a big if. We do not know if it's going to happen. But there's a lot of racing left. Still, we have about 82 minutes racing left to go here. Now, after being caught and overtaken by Buffalo, Henrique's trying to stay in touch with that BMW and use that to maintain distance over Calco and Berserk here. Now, Calco has finally been caught by Berserk, so it'll be interesting to see how this goes. 6th place is now Mojave. Mojave ended up being last place finisher in the category in the last stint, but after that big accident, Mojave being fortunate enough to avoid, that should not be replicated this time. Then you have VNX Comey, who I believe had to back off to not be destroyed in the instant, but he is still running, still on the normal strategy, looking relatively good for them right now. Meanwhile, in the bottom category, Andy continues to lead. Aramis can see the Hyundai Elantra ahead. And the Supra is trying to run him down. So this gap is a little bit tighter than where it was at the end of Stint 1. So if Aramis is a little bit cleaner than his teammate was in Stint 1, we could see Aramis and Andy go at for a legitimate fight for the lead in the bottom category. A little bit farther back, this is Anzio, who is running 3rd, and then 4th place is CBL Ferrari. 5th place is Dead Call right now, followed by EMC Corvette way farther back in 6th. Then Levine, who is even farther back in 7th, has not even caught. And then you have Isa Bay and FTC Haseo, who still have yet to navigate their way back through the bottom category traffic right now. Okay, I want to be 100% anonyms. I'm not trying to insult you or punch down on you. Please do not think that I'm trying to belittle you. I'm just trying to state things as they were and why things now are not playing out the way they were before. Please do not think I'm trying to belittle you. It is not supposed to be... I'm not trying to be cruel or rude to you or anyone else here. Buffalo continues to burn up his tires here, trying to run down on EXR Garmite. The gap between them is still quite large, though. Berserk has disposed of Calco, and now he is looking forward at HYR Henrique. As they fire downhill through the valley, and now back uphill to the top. One of the more difficult set of braking zones through here. You're carrying a lot of speed, and it's not like it's one continual braking zone. You brake, you let off the brake, you brake, you let off the brake, all the while the momentum of the car is being shunted forward and back through these corners. But for now, it looks like ZR Berserk is closing down on HYR Henrique. Just about nose to tail. And now through the funnel section here. Nothing crazy yet, no big moves here. ZR Berserk just pulls up behind Enrique, and as they went through the funnel section, they've actually pulled away from Calco just a little bit. So the fight for 3rd continues. Buffalo is very slowly pulling away from this group. I will change cameras in a bit to try and get you an idea of what the time gap is between Garmite and Buffalo at the moment. But we are focused on this fight for 3rd at the moment. Isa Bay finally making their way back through bottom category traffic right now. You want to go side by side through here. It's a very high risk move. Try and be side by side through here. Again, the big accident we had was partially caused by drivers going side by side through this section of the straightaway. Well, if you want close fights in the bottom category, there is a stalking battle between Andy and Aramis right now, and we are keeping AI on this, but it's not active right now. Then a little bit farther back, Anzio and CBL Ferrari are close to each other. They're in another stalking battle, but not immediately going at it. Dead Cell and Corvette are also a little bit close to each other, but at the moment, well, actually, I'll take that back. They have gotten a lot closer from where they were earlier there. So Corvette is running down on Dead Cell, and then Levine is last place in the category, way off the back. Big thing that these two will have to deal with is that Isa Bay, and a little bit later, FTC Haseo in the faster cars, but after repairing the cars being 100% damaged from that big incident, they will have to deal with traffic very, very shortly here. Again, I'm paranoid that I'm going to see a change for the lead in this category and completely miss it. Well, if Dead Cell pivoted, that would be an interesting alternate strategy call. Let's go ahead and verify here. Yep, this is accurate. I said Dead Cell. I'm sorry, I was thinking of Metal Gear Solid 2. Dead Call did pit, apparently, so that is the main reason why they are so much farther back and in the grasp of EMC Corvette right now. But yet, despite that, Corvette, who's also already pitted. So these two on an alternate strategy, trying to make something else work right now. And again, Isa Bay closing up on this duel very quickly. The navigation of traffic may have an impact here on this battle. Real quickly, farther up the grid. Berserk still tucked up behind Henrique right now as they come out of the mini carousel. Big slide there by Henrique. Berserk is right there. This could be a very easy drafting overtake very shortly. We see real quickly as we look at the leaders. Gap is still big, but closing in Buffalo's favor. We focus on third and fourth. Nose to tail. Berserk is right there behind Henrique. He's got the draft. He's got to pull up alongside as they go down the straightaway. Neck and neck, side by side. Dodge versus Mercedes. Can the Mercedes complete the overtake before the braking zone? He will, but now Henrique has the chance to fight back. He's going to have the draft off of Berserk. Does he try and use the draft to pull back alongside and try and outbrake at the end of the straight? Berserk's going to defend the inside line a bit. Henrique is still there, but no, Henrique will not go side by side. So Berserk moves up into third, and the entire lead pack are now going to start making their very first stops. Now, we are going to see a little bit of off-sequence stuff here. Les Sunday and Razor didn't have engine damage, but they did have some significant damage from that accident earlier. So they will be continuing for another lap because due to that big accident earlier, they have basically been automatically shunted onto what we believe will be either a 4-stop strategy or a 3-stop strategy with heavy tire wear near the very end of the event as our lead group is all coming in and pitting. Again, interesting thing is going to watch will be EXR Garmite and Scored Buffalo. Buffalo, time and time again, has been the star of the E-Racing United group. Anytime they show up to one of these TORA events, the rest of his teammates usually struggle to deliver great, reliable results. But Scored Buffalo, every time he shows up, puts his car up in the front. That usually means that this team is not in a position to fight very well for overall results, but whenever Scored Buffalo shows up in a stint, he is normally a contender, if not an outright winner for stints, and we are starting to see the same thing play out once again. Fantastic wreck avoidance in each and every single attempt at starting, and now he has gone from 12th to 2nd in about 2 laps, and now after they have finished their 3rd racing lap, Scored Buffalo is closing down on EXR Garmite. All right, a little bit farther down the grid, this is Aramis has cleared Andy. We did miss this, sadly, I do apologize, but Aramis has cleared Andy. So for the first time in the bottom category, the road-going cars, we are seeing not a Toyota Supra leading as Hyundai Elantra has slipped to 2nd place. A little bit farther back is Anzio and Ferrari, but Anzio is pulling away from Ferrari. Isa Bay has finally managed traffic, and you have Dead Cell and Corvette who are having their own little spat between the two of them. These two drivers have already pitted, reminder. And then again, Haseo is about 2/3 of a lap down. It will be a while before he catches the bottom category traffic here. And as they come onto the straight, it looks to me like Andy is out of the drafting range. I think he is out of the drafting range of Aramis's Supra. So unless he gains a huge amount of time in the braking zone and catches the draft going down the start-finish line straight, it looks like Aramis is going to... No, I take that back. Andy is closing. Andy is now visibly closing on Aramis. Now, it's not enough. He's not going to catch him by the end of the straight, but he is visibly closing on Aramis here. So the fight at the front is not over, and Aramis and Andy are both going to be pitting this time by. Jumps into the pit lane. Real quickly, just a quick look at our top 2 in the top category. Scored Buffalo right behind EXR Garmite. They have completely disposed of Berserk and then the dodges of Henrique and Calco. So we are about to have 2 completely different fights for lead in both different categories at the same time here. Big twitch, big slide by both BMWs. They're both absolutely pounding the track right now. Farther back, coming out of pit lane, Aramis will maintain his advantage over Andy out of pit lane. Power down. Now, it looks like Aramis has it for the moment. Meanwhile, in the top category, big slide by Garmite. You can visibly see Garmite sliding the car around right now. All of Stint 1, we never really saw that BMW dealing with the Forza's reverse aero wash. Now he's got Scored Buffalo right behind him. The car's going to be handling a lot different now because of the way the reverse aero wash works. So Scored Buffalo right behind Garmite trying to make something happen. Please tell me we didn't just have a lag out. It was Haseo, although Haseo may have left because he realized that there was no chance of him regaining time. We're going to try and reach out to Haseo, see if they'd be willing to talk with us about what they saw in that giant accident earlier. But this is the fight for the lead here in the top category. Nose to tail, BMW on BMW action. Another slide by Garmite. The Buffalo wasn't making a move there. He was willing to hang back. He just wants to make a move in a more ideal part of the track here. Down the straights. There's a bit of a bend here, and then afterwards you get into a heavy braking zone before you come onto what is basically the straightaway. We saw Buffalo make an overtake here earlier. Is he going to do it again? Oh, bit of a twitch, but no move that time. Buffalo high centers the car on the curb, gets on the outside curb there. He's trying to maximize momentum. All right, coming up onto another braking zone. This is not really an ideal place to make a move, but Garmite dropped the tire into the dirt. Keeps Buffalo there. Garmite's wide. Buffalo comes to the inside. Side by side as they come out of the corner. Garmite sliding the rear tires around. One of them are going to have to back out, though, as they come up to the carousel. It may have to be Buffalo. It will be Buffalo. But Garmite doesn't have a great entry, and Buffalo is still right there behind him as they fire out of the carousel. Around to the top of the hill. The highest part on the track in Sector 3. And now through a series of corners and short straightaways. These cars are evenly matched. They're the same car, but the drivers are different and the setups are likely different as well. Scored Buffalo trying to go from 12th to 1st here. Garmite is doing everything he can to hold on. Reminder, Garmite's team, they opened up a gigantic gap on second place in Stint 1. They can afford to lose a little bit of ground, but they don't want to lose too much here. Round the bend. Still, Buffalo seems to be relaxed, reserved, holding back. All right, coming into the party right now is HYR Vasco. Vasco, can you hear me?
Yep, yeah.
Go ahead and include your audio in the Xbox
Already
party
did.
if you can. All right. Frustrating time, Vasco. We know that HYR entry that you were in was one of the better cars out there. What happened in that, from your perspective, in that giant shunt in the halfway point of the first lap?
If we're talking about the second restart, that was just an unfortunate circumstance with the car ahead of us. But it's just unfortunate that happened, and just the disconnect is a real big bummer, I would like to say. We'll try to go from here, see where we can end up at the end of this race, but all we can do now is just push as hard as possible and see if we can get a good result out of it.
But yeah, just unfortunate circumstance that happens, but it's racing. So, not much to say about that there.
Yeah, I do want to ask real quickly who would be taking over the car in Stint 3, assuming your team does not pull.
We most likely won't be pulling, I would say, because honestly, there's no real reason to retire the car. As long as we give it our best effort and such, we could see this race to the end. But it'll be Hilfiger in the car next is what we're looking at. And
all right, we'll be keeping an eye on him then.
If I do not race, because I don't know if this is just a case of internet or server, you'll either see Mike or another driver take over 5 and 7 for me. But if I do get things situated and such, I'll most likely be racing those stunts.
All right, understood. In that case, thanks for jumping in and talking with us. It's a shame to see you drop out so early like that, be involved in that big accident, and then obviously the disconnect. Hopefully things turn around for you and your team later.
Yep, thank you.
All right, and that is the word from Haseo. Real quickly, while we were having that interview, you saw on track Sword Buffalo catch and then use the draft to dispose of Garmite, and Buffalo is now rushing off into the distance. So it looks like it will be back-to-back BMW Stint victories in the top category, but will not be the same one by the looks of it. But there is a prolonged stocking battle going on right now in the bottom category. Aramis leads, but he has not pulled away from Andy the way that we thought he would be able to. I thought that with Aramis's ability to catch Andy and then take the lead without too much issue, I thought that Aramis would run off in the distance, but no, we are seeing a scenario where Andy is keeping Aramis nice and honest right now. So it is a scenario of Hyundai Elantra versus Toyota Supra here at Nurburgring Nordschleife in the bottom category right now. Although I do think that Aramis probably has enough straight line speed, unless he makes a mistake and Aramis catches his draft. I think we could see Aramis break the draft from Andy and use that to just maintain his spot at the head of this field right now. My goodness, on the map, you can visibly see that Buffalo is absolutely destroyed and gapped Garmite here. Bit of a slide, bit of a twitch there by Aramis. Andy is starting to lose a little bit of ground. They're coming around the last corner before they get onto the straightaway. Again, I feel like this fight is just going to come down to, is Andy going to be close enough to get a draft off of Aramis? Now, mind you, these bomb category cars, they do not have downforce, so they have more potential top end, more potential straight line speed, but they also are going to leave a much, much bigger hole in the air, metaphorically. They're not cleanly cutting through the air. It's basically like a brick being thrown through the air. So the aero wake is going to be much, much more significant. Still, I don't think Andy is really closing on Aramis. If anything, it seems like the gap is growing just a little bit. So I think that Andy has lost the draft on Aramis, unless he closes up a massive amount in the braking zone here. More than likely. Oh, Andy slaps the inside wall there. Is there damage? That was not what I wanted to hit, curses. No damage, though. But that would have hurt any ground he gained in the braking zone, so Aramis maintains his lead for the moment. EMC Corvette making a stop. Mind you, Les Sunday has also gone ahead and made a stop, so he's already committed. Interesting thing for Razor here, Razor is going extra long on his tires and fuel, so Razor is trying to brute force his way back onto the same strategy that everyone else is on right now. It's a bold strategy. I'm a little bit interested to see how it plays out, but it's not like this is a strategy that Razor wanted to be on. He was involved in that big accident in the halfway point of this lap here. So we'll have to see for Razor, because for Razor, the worst of this race is not over for him. He's going to have to navigate this lap with very, very worn tires. But afterwards, for the last, hour and 15 minutes or so, he should be flying. Well, not really hour and 15, it would be closer to 55 minutes. He would be flying pretty close to what his actual performance will be here. So at this stage of the event, your leader by a significant margin is Scored Buffalo. He is about to come to the carousel, so let's go ahead and measure the gap between Buffalo and Garmite. Again, Buffalo hasn't even gone a full lap since passing Garmite, but look at how big the gap is between the two of them. $1,001, $1,002, $1,003, about 4 seconds between the two of them. And there is third place ZR Berserk, followed by Henrique and Calco. Interesting thing with Henrique and Calco is that the two of them are not too far apart from each other. If Henrique has a mistake, Calco could be in a position to capitalize. But the Dodges seem to have lost some of their pace compared to last stint. 6th place is E. Mojave, the third highest Dodge. Again, Mojave finished a distant 12th in stint 1. He is having a much better run of it here in stint 2. Then you get into VNX Comey. This is one of the Mustangs. Highest of the Mustangs right now. Followed by AFMG Saki. Another Mustang. And then, as we said, Razor. But Razor is on an alternate strategy and deep into the dirt. He's very obviously not having a good time of this at all right now. Worn tires, and he's just trying to drive to recover from the incidents from earlier. And then way farther back is Les Sunday. Les Sunday is in a similar situation. Oh, Mojave ran out of fuel before the end. I did not pick up on that, so I apologize. So for Mojave, it's going to be a matter of maintain his positioning and don't run out of fuel. But anyways, as I was saying, Les Sunday is in a similar position as Razor. He was a little bit farther behind from Razor, though, but he is already doing 3-lap stints. So for Sunday, it's likely that he will be dealing with more significant tire wear in the very last lap of his run. And Sunday very nearly sliding off circuit there. He's not exactly having a great time of this either right now. And then you get to the bottom category. Aramis leads. Andy in second. If Aramis makes a mistake, Andy is close enough to capitalize, but he is not in a position to directly fight. Anzio has secured third place pretty solidly over CBL Ferrari, and then you get to Dead Call, who is a little bit out on his own, followed by EMC Corvette, who is also on his own on an alternate strategy. Same with DTA Levine. I keep wanting to say Valine or other words. I don't know why Levine's name is really messing with my head in a bad way. It's honestly more than a little bit frustrating how that's happening here. I will give full credit where credit is due to both Isa Bay and Blocktoberfest, as they're still kicking around here at full speed. Even with the extreme amounts of damage they have been involved in, they are still running. Anyways, they are not backing out. They are committing to run this to the end. Oh, and Isa Bay's had an accident. Isa Bay's been involved in another accident. No. Isa Bay's not been involved in an accident. I am wrong. Isa Bay has the glitch. He's the only one in the field who has the glitch where Forza is not adjusting. Isa Bay does not have an accident. This telemetry is inaccurate. Ignore that. I apologize for getting people excited. Isa Bay does not have damage. They've already had the accident. So, at the front of the field, Scored Buffalo leads, followed by Garmite and ZR Berserk. And most of the battles in the field seem to have dissolved. There is a bit of a stalking battle between Henrique and Calco for 4th and 5th. And likewise, there is a bit of a stalking battle between Aramis and Andy for 1st and 2nd in the bottom category. Razor finally making the stop as we anticipated, but now Razor is back on strategy with everyone else right now. After the disconnect in stint 1, there is a possibility that Comey team may pull the car, which would be a shame because even though overall results are not there, I would love to see them be able to fight for some legitimate stint wins. I do think that car and the drivers in it has some pace to pull off some stint podiums or stint wins. May not be a great overall run, but I do think fighting for stint wins, especially in the lower lobbies, is just as important, if not more important, than fighting for overall distance. But if that team ends up pulling, I cannot be surprised with the frustration they had right away in stint 1 here. Oh, they lost the driver. Well, if they lost the driver, then there's not really much you can do about that. I can't fault you for pulling if you don't have the drivers to cover the remaining stints here. Still, we ride on board with Andy, who is second in the bottom category as he watches LMP Aramis in the Supra just ahead. Andy trying to get back within drafting range of Aramis to make this fight active once again. So Les Sunday has now cycled out to 9th on track. Oh, and Comey has withdrawn, it appears. So Comey may have just withdrawn already automatically. We'll reach out to Comey, see if that was a team order thing or if there was something else that has warranted that. All right, coming into the party right now is VNX Comey. Comey, can you hear me? Hello. Disconnect here in Stint 2. Did the team tell you to pull out, or is it a disconnect that took you out of the race here? Alright, well, I'm sorry to hear that, because it did look like you were having a respectable run. Not winning, obviously, but you were having a respectable run out here. Frustrating times. I do want to ask, though, for you, Comey, what other racing stuff might we see you in the future in Forza over the next few weeks or months? All right, well, in that case, we'll keep an eye on you guys in HMC. Even though I don't broadcast that, we'll keep that in mind for anyone who does want to see more of you in the future. Thanks for jumping in and talking with us. It's a shame we're talking to you so early in the event, though. Yep. Apparently they didn't get their audio included. I apologize for that. Gap between Andy and Aramis. Seems like there's a hint that it is starting to close down this time by. But there's a world difference between actually closing down in a usable way and just hinting at closing down. A little bit better run in the braking zone for Andy this time, though. Didn't slap that the outside wall on the left-hand side of the car. And he is visibly closer to Aramis this time, coming onto the pit straightaway. So this fight for the lead in the bottom category is still very much alive. In a bit of a calmer period right now, though, as most of the battles on circuit have pretty much dissolved. First, second, third, all pretty much decided. Fourth and fifth is still a bit of a stalking battle between a pair of Dodge Vipers, and then every other spot in the top category has already been well decided. In the bottom class, first and second are pretty close to each other, but everyone else is really spread out quite a bit. So at this stage of the event, we have been here for about a half of the entire stint. So we're going to go ahead and knock out a Twitch-mandated ad break now. Things have calmed down a bit. We will be back momentarily here at Nurburgring Nordschleife as we continue to watch the stalking battle here for the lead of the bottom category in Stint 2 in the 24 Hours of Nurburgring. Not sure why you asked for Razor. He was fine. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here to Nurburgring Nordschleife. We're currently looking at our 9th place driver, VER Razor, as he has now cycled himself back onto the ideal strategy with some of our drivers. But our leaders, Scored Buffalo and EXR Garmite, are both in the pit lane this time by. So everyone is knocking out their second stops of the day. Razor basically is trying to short fill, but he is back to only running 3 lap stints. But again, Razor, Blocktoberfest, Les Sunday, and Isa Bay all involved in that big accident on the first lap. So they are all in a position where they are trying to recover. They're forced to use alternate strategies because of how much damage they took earlier. But the rest of the field is all pitting right now in the top category. It will likely be just a little... if we look real quickly at our leaders in the bottom class, you look at their fuel and their tire wear, it's very likely we will see them consider pitting at the end of this circuit as well. But again, that gigantic accident we had about halfway around the circuit has really upended where the vast majority of the field is right now. Frustrating time for VER Razor because he was stuck in the middle of 3 of the 4 big accidents. We had 4 different attempts at starting this, and every one was derailed due to a massive multi-car accident, and Razor was involved in 3 of them. So just sometimes you get lucky, and sometimes you just have no luck whatsoever. And this has been one of the times where Razor has just had absolutely no luck whatsoever. Still, amongst these drivers who all have been involved in the incident and have recovered in some way and have continued to run, they all are on slightly different strategies right now. Les has roughly cycled back onto strat with most of the other field. So has Razor, but their lap times are the same. They're back to running 3 lap stints, we calculate, but they are not doing it on the exact same cycle that the rest of the field is at the moment. Gap between these two seems to have opened up just a little bit now. Not that much, but it definitely seems to be opening up. It seems like Andy steams up a little bit faster earlier in the stint, but the last lap on tires and fuel, it seems like Aramis is able to open the gap just a little bit more here. thought I was on replay camera. That was weird. Okay. There is a bit of a fight that has kind of developed, or a bit of a stalking battle has developed between Mojave and Les Sunday. Again, Sunday was involved in that accident earlier. Mojave got away from it, and now these two are fighting again on alternate strategies, but they are having a bit of a fight between each other right now. So that's worth keeping an eye on as well. Merck's got plenty of straight line here, and with the draft of the Dodge ahead, it's really supercharged his straight line speed, but he's going to have to brake really early for these next corners. Mojave trying to keep the Mercedes behind. Holds the inside line pretty well. No change for position, not that time. Credit where credit is due. Garmite is not let Scored Buffalo vanish into the ether completely. The gap is opening, but it is not completely destructively opening. That's going to ruin Garmite's run. And again, Buffalo's teammates did not have a great finish in Stint 1, so Garmite's team will still likely have a massive overall lead over the rest of the field here. Enrique and Calco are still at it. And once again, we want to look at the leaders in the bottom category. This time, Andy is definitely close enough to have a draft off of the Supra. I think. Surely. Is he close enough? Maybe he's not. Again, they're going to be pitting this time. Anticipate that these drivers will be pitting in the bottom category this time by. Yeah, Andy has definitely caught the draft on Aramis. Probably won't be close enough to get alongside in the braking zone. But he's going to be right behind him coming in through pit lane. Backs off nice and early in the corner. Doesn't want to push and run the risk of wrecking the two of them. They both have a great gap over Anzio. It'd be silly to get into an accident and throw it away at the end here. So yeah, all these drivers are going to be pitting this time here. Again, we look at the fight between Enrique and Calco. Calco's fallen off of Enrique just a little bit this time, though, it seems. And then Les Sunday has actually gotten by Mojave. We missed that. Boy, big slide there by Mojave. I wonder if this is accurate. Mojave's had... Yeah, I think Mojave's actually had an accident here. An accident on his own. His engine is still working, but Mojave has had a significant accident there. So Les Sunday inherits 6th. They're on an alternate strategy, but this could be enough to drag Les Sunday, who was involved in that big accident, up to what could be 6th. Would be very interesting to see if that turns out that way. All right, back to the focus in the fight in the bottom category. Aramis holds station over Andy after they both come out pit road, but you can visibly see how much this gap has shrunk down. So Andy now right behind Aramis all over again. Coming up to the Schumacher S. Again, these cars don't have downforce and they don't really have tunable suspension. So it's going to make navigating these corners, the higher speed corners, so much harder for them. Andy started this stint in the lead, led the first 2 full laps, but then Aramis caught him and cleared him without too much issue. Oh, apparently Scored had engine damage over the last fuel and tire stint, and now that should be resolved, so the gap that he had been pulling on Garmite should actually increase even faster now. So that's going to get interesting. Maybe, since you are in the chat, I do want to ask, why did you run 4 laps in your first tire stint in Stint 1 when literally everyone else was doing 3-3-3? Was there some sort of strategy reason you did that I wasn't aware of? Not quite nose to tail between this duo at the moment. But the gap has definitely come down. But now that they're close to each other, you have to wonder, does Andy actually have anything for Aramis? It's one thing to catch someone, it's another thing to pass. Aramis gets into the dirt with both sides of the car that time. Andy is right there behind. Now they're basically nose to tail, and Andy is going to get all the draft possible. Got it. So you did it to get clean air and get out of traffic. Completely reasonable. And you seem to think it got you some advantage, so we'll definitely keep an eye. So at least one person seems to think the alternate strategies have some viability. Here we go, side by side. Hyundai Elantra on Toyota Supra around the outside with the ability of the draft to get to a higher speed. He's cleared them. And Andy goes back to the lead in the category. So Andy back to the lead over LMP Aramis. And then they fire down into the valley. Lowest part in Sector 2. And they shoot back up. Uphill, very hard, difficult, complicated zone here. And Andy got into the dirt on the inside, upset the car a little bit. Aramis is right there behind. Andy slides a bit. Aramis is a little bit better planned through these corners. Now it's going to be Aramis who has the draft going through here. So it doesn't look like Aramis is close enough to make a move. Not yet, at least. Yeah, there's no damage to the car. He just seems to be a little bit slower at the moment. Now through the funnel, once again. Mojave going ahead and jumping into the pit lane. Again, he had that big damage in an accident that we did not see that was separate from the lap 1 stuff. So Mojave plummeting down the grid once again. 11 drivers remain of the 15 starters in the top category, but all 7 of our bottom category drivers are still in it. And these two finished 1-2. Not the same drivers, but these two cars finished 1-2 back in the first stint. So these seem to be the best teams of their category here for the B lobby. Difference, though, is that the Elantra had a gigantic gap over the LMP Supra at the end of stint 1. This time they're a lot closer together. Through this not quite true straightaway, Aramis is going to get a fantastic amount of draft, but I think he's reserved right now. I think he's fine with just running behind Andy for now. He'll probably try and use the draft later on to blitz him by later. That will hope that Andy has a mistake and Aramis can clear him that way. Coming up to the carousel very shortly here. And with these cars, it's so much harder to hit the lanes right there. You go. Andy was wide. Here comes Aramis. He's going to pull up alongside. They're going to be side by side briefly through here, but Aramis will have to back out so he can actually take the carousel. Andy's wide. Aramis closes right up in the apex. They fire out, though. Andy's into the dirt. Aramis is there. The top, the highest point here in Sector 3. And now they rush through a series of left and rights with lots of short straightaways and corners that are just wide enough you can go side by side. You'll lose a lot of time, but you can go side by side through here. Relatively relaxed and restrained is Aramis. He's not going crazy. He's not putting the nose of that car up in places where it doesn't belong. He is being very, very relaxed, just staying behind Andy for the moment. He ran Andy down earlier in the very first few laps of the race. He knows that he can pass him and do it again. He's being very relaxed. There's still 36 minutes of racing left here. He is not in a rush. Andy a little bit wide in that braking zone there. Aramis tries to close in again. Cannot make it stick, not that time. Oh, and Andy's wide! Andy went off there in the mini carousel, and Aramis goes by. Completely self-inflicted driver mistake, and now Aramis goes back to the top in the category. I thought the move was gonna come in the straightaway with the draft, and we may still see a move in the straightaway in the draft because Andy, despite losing the lead, is now back in the draft of Aramis. This is not over. Andy has a huge run now on Aramis. He's gonna use the draft and pull alongside on the outside, neck and neck down the straightaway, and Andy goes right back by Aramis as if he hadn't even gone off. But now, we see Aramis is the one with the draft. Aramis is going to have great top end with the draft. Is he going to try and pull back alongside the Hyundai Elantra going into the braking zone? Does not look like it. It looks like Andy, despite that mistake, is going to maintain his position in first for the moment. Big slide, big twitch under braking completely sideways at about a 15, 17 degree angle. He'll hold station though. He still leads as they fire on to the start finish line straightaway once again. Here comes Aramis. He's going to get the draft off of Andy again as they head down the straightaway. Does Aramis have what it takes to get close and make a big dive into turn one? I do not think so. I think Andy can hold it. Yes, Andy will hold it. Meanwhile, farther up the grid, this is the Dodge Viper duo of Henrique and Calco. Still going at it. Henrique has had the advantage over Calco for a vastly large portion of this day. They are way ahead of Les Sunday, who, reminder, is on an alternate strategy. Oh, and that's Henrique who's off. Calco tries to go for a move. Henrique's off again. Calco's trying to figure out a way by because Henrique is all over the place. Cannot get alongside. But they'll be close enough now to have draft on each other going down the back straightaway. Or maybe that won't even have an issue. Calco clears Henrique just before they get to the mini carousel. Neither car is injured. It just seems like Calco's a little bit better than Henrique right now. Coming onto the backstretch. Down the straight. Henrique tucked up behind Calco. Does he try and go for a move? Does he try and make it side by side? Dodge on dodge action here. They ascend the hill down the back straightaway. Henrique is going to go to the inside. Calco will hold the outside. And it looks like, I think, Henrique is going to be able to clear him. Calco's not pulled out yet. Now he pulls out. So Henrique retakes his position in fourth. Bit of a slide coming out. Calco's got the draft on him now as they head down the start-finish straightaway. Calco outside, Henrique inside. Dives into the switchback corners of turns 1 and 2. Calco had a good run, but was too good. He ended up hitting Henrique from behind. Sunday going ahead and making a stop now with about 31 minutes left. So with that in mind, that will probably be Sunday's final stop of the race. Remember, Sunday, because of the accident earlier, he's been knocked off sequence. Also, Razor is making his stop now as well. So again, I think this will be the last stops for Sunday and Razor and they will just nurse or drag their tires to the very end now. I will say great job on these two for recovering as much as they have. AFMG will stay out for a little bit longer, so he will briefly move back up into 6th position. All right, so we are going to go ahead and knock out a Twitch-mandated ad break. We'll be back momentarily here at Nurburgring Nordschleife as we continue to watch the back and forth that's been going on between Prod Andy 8AS and LMP Aramis at the top of the bottom category. We'll be back momentarily here. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here to Nurburgring Nordschleife as we are watching this back and forth that has been going on between Andy 8AS and LMP Aramis. This has not been an easy cut and dry fight. Andy's led several laps, Aramis has led several laps. We've seen both of them make mistakes, give time up, but they are both way ahead of the other drivers. Buffalo has pulled a massive gap on Garmite. Both of them have pulled a massive gap on ZR Berserk. And then you have Calco and Enrique. Enrique has finally fallen off the back of Calco at this stage of the event as our top category is navigating traffic, but the gaps in the field are so big that they kind of don't really matter anymore. Really, this is the primary battle we're likely going to be watching to the end of this stint here at Nurburgring. So a reminder, 3 mandatory stops in the event. So for the likes of Sunday, Razor, Mojave, along with Corvette and Levine in the bottom category, they have already done all of their mandatory stops. Everyone else likely has one more stop to do before the end of this. They can go another lap in this category. You don't have to, but they could go another lap if they wanted to in this spot, in this category here. Top category is definitely going to make their final stop here at the end of this lap they're currently on. Again, 100 minutes, roughly, is how long you spend racing in a TORA stint. Because the timer is set to 2 hours, but you stop with 20 minutes left. So 120 minutes, which is 2 hours. You subtract 20 minutes from it, you get 1 hour exactly. 1 hour, and you have to split that into 4 stints because you have 3 mandatory stops. It's just 25, 50, 75, 100. You pit once with 25 minutes in, pit once with about 15 minutes in, pit again with about 75 minutes in. So we'll see them pit with what we believe would be 25 minutes before the end of the event, or 45 minutes left on the race timer. Now, obviously, our top category is not going to be quite there due to the way the times work, but it will be pretty close to it. Bit of a tire squealing there. And now they come onto the straight. Ooh, Aramis dropped the tire into the dirt. That's not going to help him. He should still be close enough to get a nice little draft off of Andy, though. So we may see this come back and fight again. It may be a case that these two drivers are just relaxed and they're not crazy about making moves in the normal overtaking zones that you would think of. They only want to make moves in the straightaways where the draft will help them. They may just be that well evenly balanced against each other. But for Aramis, dropping a tire into the dirt coming onto the straightaway has not helped him. It's nerfed his speed, and while he has touched the draft, he is not close enough to really capitalize here. Heavy under the brakes. It does look like, for the moment, Andy has the advantage over Aramis, so fantastic job there. Scored Buffalo is making his way through the midfield of the bottom category, but he is going to be pitting at the end of this lap, we believe. Yeah, look at that little fuel left. He's definitely pitting at the end of this lap. Garmite has significantly fallen off him, but Garmite should still be in a position where his team will have overall lead out of everyone here in the B lobby. So real quickly, with all these drivers ahead pitting, this will give us an idea as to where Sunday actually is in relation to our top 5. I'm going to be 100% honest. I think the answer is very clearly nowhere close. Just that accident has taken so much time off. For Sunday to be able to recover to what looks like will be a 6th place result is honestly incredible. And I feel similarly about Razor. I think Razor is on track to potentially bring home a 7th place finish at the end of this, despite that big accident earlier. So while VER is not out of it altogether, obviously, they are trying to dig themselves out of a nasty hole at the moment. And they've done a decent enough job minimizing how deep the hole is. Now it's just going to be a matter of the rest of the drivers putting everything together well. I do feel like the gap now between Andy and Aramis is starting to swing bigger and bigger in Andy's favor. And the other thing you'll notice is that the sun is starting to set in game. Now, reminder, Stint 3 and Stint 4, I will not be covering. That is, I believe, UDP Valkyrie who will be covering those stints on their own channel, if I remember correctly. So they will be covering stints 3 and 4, and then I will be covering stints 5 and 6, if my memory is correct at this stage of the event. AFMG Saki knocking out their final stop of the day. Still have yet to see Isa Bay and Blocktoberfest do it. Again, Isa Bay really just kind of swallowed the worst pill as quickly as they could. They have been improving their times gradually, but I do not think that Isa Bay has any chance of catching the drivers ahead. I think Isa Bay is locked in 10th, and Blocktoberfest locked in 11th. Only thing I will say is that Mojave, who was higher up, at least is guaranteed a top 10 result, just because even though he was involved in a separate accident all on his own, the field spread out more than enough that he could afford to bleed off a little bit of time and limp the car home without hemorrhaging massive amounts of time. So about 22 minutes left in the event right now. And now the gap between our top 2 and the bottom category is starting to close back down all over again. This has been the fight to watch. The gap grows and then it shrinks and then they catch each other and then they fight and then it grows and then it shrinks and they catch each other and fight again. I'm really interested in this because this has really been a showcase of different strengths and weaknesses, not just of these cars, but of these drivers. Aramis and Andy have both been relatively relaxed. They've not been going for any crazy out-of-control moves. Andy has made a few more mistakes than Aramis, but I do think Andy might be a very slight amount faster. But Aramis has been slightly less mistake-prone. That consistency has been enough to keep him in the zone. I also can't prove it, but I think that Andy is in a car that at least is tuned up to have a better top end. But I think Aramis has better acceleration. However, I also think Andy might have better braking and Aramis may have better mid-corner speed. Now, I could be reading that wrong, but that is what it's looked like to me as I have watched this go back and forth. Again, we're anticipating these two will be pitting at the end of this circuit. $16.5 in the Supra, 9.8 in the Hyundai, and that would help the Hyundai a lot. He can get away with putting less fuel in the car, or the same amount of fuel, but the fuel burns up quicker, so he fundamentally is running a slightly lighter car near the very end. Now, for you and I, those of us who are average casual drivers, that's not going to have a big impact, but for people who are TORA A lobby drivers and the top half of TORA B lobby drivers, that will have a significant advantage. Does look like, though, that Andy is really starting to open the gap on Aramis now, though. Alright, well, with about 18 minutes left in the event, now that this fight for the lead seems to have pretty much dissolved, we're going to go ahead and knock out a Twitch-mandated ad break. When we come back, though, we will likely see our bottom category knock out the rest of their pit stops. We'll run through the field and take you to the end of this stint here at Nurburgring Nordschleife. We'll be back momentarily. All right, at the top of the hill on the back straightaway, go our leaders. We're following second place LMP Aramis as our bottom category is about to knock out their final pit stops of the day. And with that, everyone will have completed all of their mandated pit stops. We have about 16 and a half minutes left in the event right now. And it has been a fantastic drive by Scored Buffalo in the top category today. Again, I'll pull up the ticker to really send things home. He has gained 11 positions. He started 12th, avoided that gigantic accident, and then has moved his way up the grid, meticulously got up as high as second by the end of lap 2, caught Garmite just shortly after the first round of stops and has just pulled away. And mind you, Buffalo had engine damage, not a lot, but he did have a little engine damage at one point. If not for that engine damage, imagine how much farther ahead of the rest of the field he would be. It has been an absolutely fantastic drive by Buffalo. And there is a very distinct chance that he will complete not just this lap, but one lap afterwards and could get a massive amount of distance. But I do want to go ahead and say that for Garmite, who is second, he has done everything right, and his team is likely going to still end up being first overall of the B lobby entrance as he goes ahead and passes our leader in the bottom category. Garmite's entry should still be in the overall lead out of all of the GT cars here in B lobby. Third place is ZR Berserk, was making a fourth stop as he had an accident that we missed. No, I do not know why he is making a fourth stop. This derails everything. I'm not sure what's going on with Berserk that is requiring him to make this fourth and extra stop, but he's going to lose a bunch of ground to the top two, and he's going to fall behind both Calco and Henrique. Now, maybe he wasn't confident about what the car could do on worn tires, but I feel like that may be all it takes to give Calco third place overall. Calco's trying to navigate some of the traffic right now. Berserk probably will have what it takes to catch and run down Henrique, but I'm not sure why he's done that. This basically gives Calco a podium result somehow. This car had a good result in Stint 1. Looks like it's going to bring home another pretty respectable result in Stint 2. Not in overall distance, but just off of surviving and drivers ahead making strategy blunders. I'm not sure why Berserk elected to make another stop now. Well, Sunday trying to rush his way through traffic. You actually see ZR Berserk ahead. If Sunday actually is able to run down and catch Berserk. Also, I don't think Berserk had a mistake on fuel, because when he pitted, it said he still had about 18% left in the tank. So, at least that's what I saw. So, I don't think Berserk was actually struggling with fuel. It looks like whatever happened, he didn't actually change anything because his tires are still warm. His fuel might have a little more fuel. I don't know. Maybe he just didn't get enough fuel. Maybe it is. Interesting thing is that Berserk did not change tires, so his tires are still worn, and he has Les Sunday behind. So there is a outside chance that Les Sunday could pull off the recovery drive of the day, go from a big accident lap 1, put himself in the top 5. Again, he'd have to actually be able to catch and pass Berserk, but it's not outside the realm of possibility, to say the least. Real quickly, I do want to go ahead and look at our leaders in the bottom category. Andy has gradually been extending his lead over Aramis, but the big interesting thing is traffic. Now, traffic works differently for bottom category compared to the top category. For bottom category, it's the driver who's behind who normally gets screwed over by traffic more, because they have less time to prepare and react. Traffic could have an impact on how the gap plays out between Andy and Aramis. There are some camera angles where you can see both cars together. This is Anzio. This is Aramis, and this is Anzio. He's not even gotten into the funnel yet. So, nowhere close. Now, if Andy and Aramis had an accident, Anzio would obviously go to the lead. He's not so far out that they could, have an accident and walk off. But Anzio is a distant third place right now. Yeah, the interesting thing is going to be that these two are going to have to deal with top category traffic with about a little less than 11 minutes left here at Nurburgring Nordschleife. Oh, you can now hear it. You can hear it now. You can hear that roar of the Dodge Viper engine, that 10-cylinder coming up there. You can see it now. This is going to be frustrating for Calco because Calco is going to be catching Aramis and Andy in some of the more technical corners. I don't think he's going to have to deal with both of them in the carousel, but I think he's going to have to deal with at least one of them in the carousel here. Does Aramis just go wide and let the Dodge have the lane? No, he holds the ideal racing line. So, Calco has to drive by manually. Can he clear him? Can he get down in time to hit the carousel? He does. Calco definitely cut it close there, but he made it work. And Aramis was not really held up by that. So now Andy will have to deal with Calco. Now you can see the lights starting to turn on around the circuit. So for those of you watching Stint 3 and 4, I hope you guys enjoy. Oh, that's a bargy there. And that's going to hold Prod up a bit. Prod's still being held up by the Dodge. All right, now finally the Dodge clears them. Andy is still offline. Gets into the dirt. He big slides there. Aramis has closed the gap down just a little bit. So it is not over. This fight is still alive. And Enrique will be catching this duo very shortly as well also. But Andy got a little bit argy-bargy there dealing with the GTs, and now Aramis is just a bit closer. And here comes more traffic. Come up to the very, very technical section here. High speed if you can keep the car on track, but if you can't keep it on track, it just throws you around and you can very easily get thrown into the grass or worse, into the wall. Looks like they both do a good job keeping it together this time. Here comes Enrique now. Berserk is a long way off from this duo. Or not. No, that's Berserk right there, isn't it? As Enrique clears Aramis without issue. Now Andy has to deal with Enrique right behind him. Being held up by the Dodge. Dodge trying to go the long way around. That's not the greatest way to make it happen. Enrique's going to go by the outside. Here comes that Merc. That is Berserk. So Berserk has used, for whatever reason, Berserk has figured out something. He is closing back down. He might get at least one of his positions back. And that's Les Sunday. Les Sunday has really come to life. He's running down as well on those two. So we could have a three-way fight for fourth in GT here. And Andy has to deal with all this traffic in front and behind him. They've already all cleared Aramis, so Aramis doesn't have to worry nearly as much. Here comes the Merc. Big slide. Another slide. Huge slide. The Merc is still being held up. And finally, Les Sunday clears Andy. So now the gap between Andy and Aramis is actually still about the size it was, if not a little bit bigger, all things considered. I think Andy got out of that better than he anticipated. So meanwhile, the fight for fourth is alive. ZR Berserk trying to recover from what we think may have been a strategy miscue, as he has caught HYR Enrique, putting the screws to him now. Mercedes on Dodge action. It's BMW, Dodge, Mercedes. Those are your main factors in the top 6 spots. Out of the Schumi S's. This is for the last time in this stint. Bit of a slide. Not too much, but it's a very, very slight slide. Mojave is pitting for a 4th time so late. Has he had damage again? Has this car been involved in another accident? No, but I guess he did not have confidence in the fuel and tires to go to the end. So is this going to put him behind Isa Bay? I don't think so, but there is a possibility that happens. Meanwhile, this duo fires off into Nordschleife proper. Now, they're not going to get all the way around. They'll get a majority of the way around Nordschleife, but they're not going to complete the entire run through all of Nordschleife here. Just about nose to tail. You go for a big move uphill. Go in the danger zone, the corner that had caused 2 big accidents in 2 prior attempts. A corner that we've seen drivers go off. Do you try and make a move there if you're a Berserk? I don't think so. I think Berserk has the speed to get alongside Henrique through here yet. Yeah, Berserk's is hanging out behind Henrique. Not really putting the screws to him, though, in gain side by side, but he's definitely pressuring him. Over the next hill, big sweeping left-hander, then you brake hard to a right-hander down through the valley. Here he is, he goes brake, late, dives to the inside, gets alongside. Drag race coming out of the corner, and Henrique chokes, gets the tires in the dirt. Berserk recovers 1 of the 2 positions he lost. But the gap between himself and Calco is absolutely massive. I see no way that Berserk catches Calco unless Calco has a mistake here and damages the car. Les Sunday has completely fallen off of Henrique. Oh, is he running out of fuel? He may not have the fuel. He's only at 3%. With 3 minutes left, Les Sunday, oh my goodness, the consequences. If Les Sunday runs out of fuel here, now you can actually see he is letting the leaders in the top category go by right now, as he's just trying to salvage fuel. It's gone all pear-shaped. Les Sunday was on a fantastic recovery drive, and now out of fuel, or not quite out of fuel, but running way lower on fuel than he wants. Where is he in relation to VER Razor, who should not have to worry about that? Razor's got some burnt up tires, but he has the fuel, we imagine, to go to the end. So Razor is barreling down on Les Sunday with speed now. So Razor might, despite having bad luck and being involved in, I think, all but 1 of those big accidents we had earlier, including the big one that started this stint, it looks like Razor might be able to dig himself out of the hole a bit and bring home a 6th place result here. Assuming he also doesn't run out of fuel. A little bit less than 2 minutes left. He's at 4.7% fuel. He should be good on fuel to the end. He'll be close, but I think he's timed this well. He's definitely timed this better than Les Sunday ahead. Sunday has gone into ghost mode, just so he does not cause any problems. And those are your 2 leaders in the bottom category just ahead. They are on top of each other. Andy and Aramis are on top of each other again. Here comes that Dodge Viper. Aramis is going to take the outside line, not really going to hold up the Viper. He wants to see that Viper cause problems for the leader in category. Viper goes around the outside. Andy caught off guard, high centers it over one of the curbs. Is Aramis close enough to get a draft off of Andy? There's a minute left. Less than a minute. Aramis can see Andy. He can smell the arrow wash. But even if he catches him, does he have anywhere where he can get alongside? Because as it stands right now, the gap would still be in Andy's team's favor. It would actually extend by just a few feet, but it would extend a little bit. Looks like it's fine. Looks like there's not going to be any changes there. The gap between Sunday and Saki is now closing. 20 seconds left. I think Sunday will barely be able to maintain 7th, but he's out. He is out of fuel now. Saki is not going to worry about that, but he's just not going to have enough time. He's not going to be able to catch them. As we watch the clock, 2 seconds, 1 second. Time's up. Over. Plow. Oh, into the wall at the very end. Didn't damage the car somehow. But in the end, unsurprisingly, your winner in top category is Scored Buffalo. Very nearly completed the final lap. EXR Garmite will be a little bit farther back in second, so their team should still be leading overall. Calco inherits third off of ZR Berserk's what we believe was a strategy kerfuffle, who recovers barely to take fourth. 5th place will go to 8YR Henrique. 6th place will be VER Razor, the best recovery of all the drivers involved in that big accident earlier. 7th will be LES Sunday. 8th will be AFMG Saki. 9th will be E Mohave, who you cannot see from this angle. 10th will be Isa Bay. 11th will be Blocktoberfest, last of the runners in the top category. Then you get to the bottom category. Prod, Andy will win, so it will be back-to-back victories for the Hyundai Elantra. 2nd place will be LMP Aramis, a long way back. And 3rd will be Anzio, stopping dead in the center of the carousel. 4th will be CBL Ferrari. 5th will be Dead Call. 6th will be EMC Corvette. And 7th will be DTA Levine. And that will be your end results for everyone running at the end of the stint. We are going to go ahead and knock out a Twitch-mandated ad break. When we come back, we will go ahead and start trying to get interviews for some of our top finishers here. And if we don't get interviews, then I will go ahead and set up a raid so everyone can start going to the broadcaster for stints 3 and 4. But we'll be back momentarily here at Nurburgring Nordschleife. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here to Nurburgring Nordschleife. Stint 2 is over, and a very chaotic and wild Stint 2 to the end, especially in the bottom category, as Andy pulls off a very, very small victory over LMP Aramis. In fact, if you ride on board with Aramis, you can see Andy right ahead of him. These two both traded the lead several different times over the course of the event, but in the end, Andy just barely pulled it off. So back-to-back wins for the Hyundai Elantra in the bottom category. Back-to-back wins for BMW in the top category. But in the top category is a different team that has won in the first two stints. Well, you say Score didn't listen to you saying don't get any more engine damage, but Scored has still pulled out a ridiculous gap over second place. So I'm going to go ahead and controversially say it's not that bad for him, at least. I'm going to wait just a little bit longer before I send out post-race interview invites, because I did not realize how much longer it was taking them to record distance. Normally it doesn't take them too terribly long, but also the last few events I've been covering typically have slightly smaller fields. So make of that what you will. All right, I'm going to start sending out invites now. I think that they've probably gone. I think enough people have submitted stuff now. I can probably send invites. Hello, Andy. Can you hear me? Can you go ahead and include your audio in the Xbox party? Nope.
So,
well,
I don't
despite that, I'm assuming that the broadcast has picked your audio up. So, despite your technical issues that you've been struggling with, good job on a very well fought win in your category. What do you have to say about your run out there, mate?
I had a lot of pressure from what the LMP. Okay, but yeah, it's a good race. It was a hard race. Not a lot of handling, but got the straights and pulled out of. He messed up in one corner, and that's when I took off. And then at the end, I saw the GT coming in, and yeah, it's not out of to have a little bit more, but it was a good race. GG's for him, everybody in the lobby.
It was a fantastic drive seeing you make that work. I do want to ask who's going to be taking over the car for Stint 3.
That's the next thing, right? Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I'm looking for the lobby right now. Yeah.
Oh, so you're doing Stint 3?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, then I will let you go. Good luck out there. Maybe you can pull off back-to-back stints, but great drive out there.
Yes, sir.
All right. I want to go ahead now and talk with our third place finisher in the bottom category, Anzio. Anzio, go ahead, include your audio. Solid, consistent drive. It looks like you brought home a third place result in your class. What do you have to say about your run out there today? Let me check something here. So in the Xbox party, there will be a little box or something. It will be unchecked, or maybe it will be checked if you already hit, but it will say include audio, basically.
It is. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, we're back.
Okay. All right. Anzio, third place result, relatively solid, consistent. What do you have to say about your run out there in Stint 2?
Honestly, I'm just glad we had a trouble-free stint. Mostly able to pick up places really well from people making mistakes. Had a couple close calls, but we survived, and we're just going to keep executing on our plan. I think Neil's taking over next stint. Let me check the stint form. And if everything goes well, we're hoping for top 10. Maybe that's the dream.
Might still be possible. A little bit of hiccups and mistakes by the top guys here, and I think a top 10 overall is definitely in the cards. All right, thanks for jumping in and talking with us, mate. It's been fun, although I didn't spend a lot of time watching it. It's been fun watching the bomb category. Bomb category has definitely been the one to watch in this event.
Yes, sir. Alrighty, I will see you around, my man.
All right. Aramis, I see you in the chat. If you want to jump into Xbox to give an interview, feel free. Still wait to see if any of our top category guys are going to jump in for interviews, but I have a feeling that they're not going to go ahead and jump in. So we're going to wait just a little bit longer just in case Aramis wants to go ahead and jump in. But if not, this will pretty much wrap up our broadcast, and I will start organizing the raid to UDP Valkyrie, as UDP Valkyrie will be hosting Stints 3 and 4 on their channel, then I will be taking back over for Stints 5 and 6. All right, Aramis, I'll send you another invite here. All right, Aramis, can you hear me? All right, can you include your audio in the Xbox party?
Yeah, sure. There we go.
All right, Aramis, fantastic drive with you and Andy trading the lead back and forth several times. Just came up a little short in the end. What do you have to say about your run out there today?
Yeah, it was a good stint from both of us, really. We kind of ran away with it, and I wasn't expecting us to. I was expecting quite a tough fight from quite a lot of the cars, so I just sort of kept my head down in the stint, and I was trying my hardest to catch that Elantra, but I sort of had the edge in the corners against him. But then once he was on the straight, it was like a rocket. So it was sort of back and forth between speed and power, and in the end I came up short. But it was a good stint from both of us, so that's all that matters in the end, is that we had a nice clean stint, and it was a good race between us both.
Fantastic job. Honestly, that was the highlight of the day. I probably spent 45-50% of the stint watching the two of you. Definitely the most fun to watch. But I do have to ask, who's going to be taking over in your Toyota Supra for Stint 3?
It's going to be Amoeba who's taking over from me.
All right, LMP Amoeba. We'll be keeping an eye on them when that happens then. All right, and coming in the party right now is another person. Aramis, you have anything else you want to say before I let you go and actually, catch a breath?
I just want to say good luck to everyone in B Lobby, and good racing from everyone in that stint too.
All right, thanks for jumping in and talking with us. Now we're going to talk with our third place finisher in the top category, Calco. Calco, go ahead, include your audio if you can. Actually, Calco. All right, Calco, hold that thought for just a second. I'm going to get to Scored Buffalo first because I know that Scored Buffalo is doing the next stint, I think, so I want to get him out of the way quickly. Scored, go ahead, include your audio in the Xbox party. Fantastic drive going from 12th to 1st before the stint was even halfway over, and you somehow avoid that massive accident early. What do you have to say about your run out there? Wait, Buffalo, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
All right. Were you able to include your audio in the Xbox party?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay. Fantastic drive, mate. You went from 12th to 1st. You avoided that giant accident lap 1 and won by a pretty significant margin. How in the world did you pull any of that off today?
I honestly don't really know, but the car felt really good, so I'm hoping that's it for the next 2 stints that I have to do, because I'm tripling this stint, or I'm tripling the next, or this 6-hour stint.
All right. Any other things you want to say real quickly before we let you go?
No, not really. I really have to go though. I'm sorry.
All right, go. Yeah, go on and head out. Have a good time, mate.
You too.
All right, well, that was the word from our stint winner in the top category, Scored Buffalo. Real quickly, now we focus on you, Calco. I apologize, but Calco, very interesting time. This car has brought some good results in the first stint. Good result again in stint 2. What do you have to say about your run out there today?
It took a bit to get used to it on the higher fuel at the beginning of the stint, hence why I didn't really fight as much with Henrique, or when the guys who were clearly faster came through, as just maximizing pace or maximizing distance was the goal, not crashing out in the first couple laps, but the goal is just to be consistent, and it clearly worked, getting a third place in that stint.
Okay, so I do have to ask, who's taking over for the car in Stint 3?
Stint 3, I believe, is HYR Spirit. He should be... Yep, HYR Spirit is taking Stint 3 for the Luxem Viper in B Lobby.
All right, well, we'll be keeping an eye on him then in the following broadcast. Anything else you want to say before we close the interviews down?
Nope, I believe that should be it. Thanks for having me.
All right. And with that, we've talked with almost all of our top finishers in the categories. EXR Garmine is not in a position to jump in and join us. I assume maybe he has stepped away, but irregardless, that will pretty much bring us to the end here of Stint 2. Again, I will not be covering Stints 3 and 4. I'm going to send you all to UDP Valkyrie's channel for Stint 3 and 4 coverage. I will be back to cover Stint 5 and 6 a little bit later today, though. But until next time, I've been your host for today's broadcast, Insane Leader 13. Thank you very much for joining us. Farewell and goodbye, everyone. Invalid. Oh my gosh, Twitch is going to do this thing, isn't it? All right, time to spend a long time trying to figure this out.